I'm Dr. Allison Collins, pediatrician at Kaiser Permanente Santa Clara and director of the Healthy Eating Active Living program. Today I'm going to do some demos. I'm going to demo how to make overnight oats. Overnight oats is a great option for breakfast because it's super easy, nutritious, keeps you full all morning long, and is a delicious way to get your day started. There's lots of different options for overnight oats, so I'm going to show a couple basic recipes. Okay, so to get started with the overnight oats, the big thing is you're going to use about equal amounts of oats to some kind of liquid, usually a type of milk. So I'm going to go ahead and do a half a cup of oats. For the oats, I like to use an old-fashioned oat as opposed to like a quick cook. The reason is if you use the quick cook, it would get a little bit soggy versus the kind of old-fashioned sticks up more, has a little bit better texture when you soak it overnight. You could also use other types of grains. You can do a mixture. You just want to make sure it's a whole grain and something that isn't pre-cooked so that it stands up nice when you're soaking it overnight. So I went ahead and did a half cup of that. That's a serving for an adult. If you're going to do kids, I would recommend doing a fourth a cup, especially for younger kids like 7 and under. Between 7 and 10, when they maybe get more an adult size, you could do kind of in between size. And then you're going to do a milk. I like to use almond milk. It has a nice nutty flavor. It also still has the calcium and vitamin D that you might get from a cow milk. You certainly could use other kinds of milk. You could use cow milk, you could use soy milk, pea protein milk. There's a lot of milks out there, so whatever you prefer. So I'm going to go ahead and do equal amounts. I'm going to do a half a cup. Go ahead and put it on in there. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of flaxseed. I'm a big fan of using flaxseed in general. It has lots of good health benefits. It has fiber. It's got omega-3 fatty acids, which can help with high cholesterol. It also can help with digestion and making sure you're regular. So I go ahead and put a sprinkle of that in. I also really like the taste. It has a little bit of a nutty flavor. Couple things about flaxseed: you buy them as whole little seeds, and you need to grind them up. So this is already pre-ground, but I like to grind it somewhat fresh. If you grind it way far ahead or buy it pre-ground, it probably loses some of its nutrition. So if possible, grind it and keep it, maybe for a week or two. So I wouldn't put a little bit of that in. I'm going to put a little bit of vanilla extract. I like to use that because it gives kind of a nice sweet flavor. You can measure it. If so, it's about a quarter teaspoon. I just use my little lid as a measurer. I'm going to go ahead and put that in just a little bit, put it on in there. Next, I'm going to add just a little bit of sweetness into this base layer. And you can either use a maple syrup or a honey. I'm going to use a very small amount of maple syrup. You don't need much, but maybe about a half a teaspoon just to give it a little bit of flavor and sweetness. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And next, I'm just going to stir that around. And this is going to be our base. We're kind of making a layered type overnight oats that's going to kind of look nice. So just stir that around. Again, kids can so easily do this because it just involves some simple measuring, some stirring. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer, and I'm going to use a Greek yogurt. For Greek yogurts, I really like to use plain as opposed to flavored like a vanilla or a fruit flavored one, because it actually has a lot less sugar in it. Flavored yogurts tend to add a lot of extra sugar. So I'm just going to use a plain one. You can sweeten it yourself, so you can add your own fruits, your own honey, then you can control how much sugar is in it. So I'm just going to do a layer. It calls for about a fourth a cup, but you can certainly don't need to measure. It's just you want to make a nice smooth layer here. And so we're not going to stir it in. We're just going to make it so it has this nice layer. So when you go to eat it, it has kind of a layered effect, so it's not all mixed in together. So I'm going to go ahead and set that spoon aside. And next, I'm going to put on some spices. So I'm going to put a little bit of cinnamon, and you're just going to kind of sprinkle it over it to, again, make a little layer there. You do want to make sure you have a fine holes for your cinnamon. I have a few that come in big holes, and if you go to do this, you're just going to get a huge clump of cinnamon. And a lot of cinnamon does not taste good. It's overpowering and is almost too much. So a little bit of cinnamon. I'm also going to do some nutmeg. And nutmeg I really love to do fresh. Because it gives a lot better flavor and it's very fun. So this is actually a nut that's called a nutmeg. Most people see it as a ground up spice, but it's super easy to do on your own. You just need a microplane or a good grater. All you're going to do is just couple little shreds of this just over the top. You certainly could use pre-ground nutmeg and that would be fine, but it's kind of fun. A lot of kids like to do this. It's a nice meditative activity to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Next I'm going to drizzle just a little bit of honey. And I like to use honey because you can easily drizzle it. So I'm just going to put a couple drizzles of honey. kind of fun to get it up on the side so that when you're eating it, you get a little bit of the honey flavor in there. So just drizzle that all over it. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a peach. Now peaches are great, especially when they're in season. I'm just gonna chop it up. I like to do a good size half of a peach. It gives it really good flavor. So I'm just gonna go ahead and chop that on up here. But the only thing about peaches is they don't last all year round, and if you buy them in the winter from other places, they're not usually as good. So if the peaches are out of season, or if you or your kids are not big fans of peaches, you can do other fruits. We often do pears, apples, so really depending on what you like and what season is, you can certainly do other options. So I'm gonna go ahead and pile that on in, and I really wanna pile the peaches up. I might even do a little extra because I like it to be completely full of peaches. I'm gonna put in a little bit extra peach there to really make it full. You can also put another little sprinkle of cinnamon on top just to make it a little bit pretty and give a little extra flavor. And there we go. That is our first one. So overnight peach cobbler oats. I'm gonna put the lid on it. I'm gonna refrigerate that. And what it does is overnight it kind of cooks and basically it kind of sets in so it softens the oats. So in the morning, I'm gonna put it in my fridge here. You're just gonna let it sit, boop, 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 boop. We've got, say, 12 hours go by. I'm gonna pull it out. And it's ready to go. And so if you're not a first eating in the morning person, you can take this, grab it to go, take it with you to work, take it to school, and have it later. Or you can just open it up. I like to put on some nuts in the morning. I don't like to put the nuts on the night before because they'll get soggy. So I'm just gonna put the nuts on in the morning. And there you go, your breakfast is ready. Okay, thanks for joining us today. We made lots of different overnight oats, so you can see we have lots of different varieties, lots of different tastes depending on what you and your kids prefer. A lot of these recipes you can swap out, like I said, different fruits, different spices. You can switch different grains around. So you can really customize it, make it different. This is a great way to get a change in your breakfast. So if you're used to eating breakfast cereal, unfortunately it's pretty processed. It doesn't really keep you full throughout the morning. So this is a great way to have a nice filling breakfast that gives lots of nutrition, but also is really tasty. And so it has lots of really good flavor. And hopefully you can create ones that you really like that fit your taste preferences. Thanks for joining me today. Again, I'm Allison Collins, pediatrician at Kaiser Permanente in Santa Clara, and I help direct the Healthy Eating Active Living program.